Bunny Wailer, born as Neville Livingston on 10 April 1947 in Kingston, Jamaica, the 2nd of March 2021, was a three-time Grammy Award winner, singer, percussionist and devoted Rastafarian, known for the reggae classic Dreamland. He is founding member of reggae group The Wailers with Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. Bunny, Marley's stepbrother, toured with the band in England and USA after the success with the 1973 albums Catch a Fire and Burnin', but meant it was against Rastafari to perform for almost only white people and left Wailers 1973. He then made a number of solo reggae albums. Blackheart Man 1976 is a good example of his religious roots reggae, and Rockin' Groove 1981 of solid uptempo Sly and Robbie-based reggae. He started to tour internationally again and is regarded as one of the most important reggae artists ever. Bunny Wailer has won the Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album in 1991, 1995 and 1997. Bunny Wailer was a singer, songwriter and percussionist, born Neville O'Reilly Livingston on April 10, 1947 in Kingston, Jamaica. He was founder and an original member of ska, rocksteady and reggae group The Wailers, formed 1963 along with Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. The young Livingston spent his earliest years in the village of 9 Mile in St. Anne Parish. It was there that he first met Bob Marley, and the two toddlers became fast friends. The boys both came from one-parent families. Livingston was being brought up by his father, Marley by his mother. Later, Bunny's father Thaddeus, Toddy, Livingston lived with Bob Marley's mother Cedella Booker and had a daughter with her named Pearl Livingston. Peter Tosh had a son, Andrew Tosh, with another of Bunny's sisters, Shirley, making Andrew his nephew. Livingston was underused as a writer and lead vocalist in the Wailers compared with Marley and Tosh. When Wailers regularly changed producers during the early reggae years in the late 1960s, Livingston continued to be a key part of the group's distinctive harmonies. He sang, however, lead on Dreamland, a cover of El Tempo's My Dream Island, which soon became Bunny's signature song, Riding High, Brainwashing, and on one verse of the Wailers' impressions like Keep On Moving, both produced by Lee Scratch Perry. In 1971, he recorded the original version of Pass It On. Bunny Wailer toured with the Wailers in England and the United States, but soon became reluctant to leave Jamaica. He and Tosh became more marginalized in the group as the Wailers became an international success, and attention was increasingly focused on Marley. Bunny Wailer and Peter Tosh subsequently left the Wailers to pursue solo careers. They were replaced by the I3s, a move to broaden the base of success for the Wailers in the non-Jamaican market. After leaving the Wailers, Bunny became more focused on his spiritual faith. He identified with the Rastafari movement, as did the other Wailers. He self-produced a number of his recordings after striking out on his own. He has also written much of his own material as well as re-recording a number of cuts from the Wailers' catalog. Bunny Wailer has recorded primarily in the roots style, in keeping with his often political and spiritual messages. The album, Blackheart Man, is a good example of his roots reggae style, and the dub version, Dub D*SCO Volume 1, equally magnificent if hard to find. Sings the Wailers, successfully reworks many of the Wailers' songs with the backing of top Jamaican musicians, Sly and Robbie. He has also had success recording in the typically apolitical, more pop dancehall style. He has outlived his contemporaries in a culture where death by violence is commonplace. Bunny Wailer has won the Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album in 1990, 1994 and 1996. Albums with original material, Blackheart Man, 1976 Solomonic. Protest, 1977 Island Solomonic. Struggle, 1978 Solomonic. Dub Disco Volume 1 Inch 1978 Solomonic. In I Father's House, 1979 Solomonic. Bunny Wailer Sings the Wailers, 1980 Island Solomonic. Dub Disco Volume 2 Inches 1981 Solomonic. Rockin' Groove, 1981 Solomonic. Tribute, 1981 Solomonic. Hook, Line and Sinker, 1982 Solomonic. Roots Radix Rockers Reggae, 1983. Live, 1983 Solomonic. Marketplace, 1985 Solomonic. Rootsman Skanking, 1987 Shanashi International re-release of Rockin' Groove, edited version plus 3 extra tracks. Rule Dance Hall, 1987 Shanashi. Liberation, 1989 Shanashi. Time Will Tell, a tribute to Bob Marley, 1990 Shanashi International re-release of Tribute, plus 2 extra tracks. Gumption, 1990. Shanashi. The Never-Ending Wailers, 1991. Dance Massive, 1992. Just Be Nice, 1993. Hall of Fame, a tribute to Bob Marley's 50th anniversary, 1996. Ross. Communication, 2000. Solomonic. Tough Gong. World Peace, 2003. Solomonic. Rub-a-Dub, 2007. Solomonic. Cross Culture, 2009. Solomonic. Combinations Volume 1 Inch 2009. Solomonic. Blackheart Man Remastered and Extended 2009. Solomonic. Reincarnated Souls, 2013. VP3 CD plus 2 DVD set. As one-third of the Wailers with Bob Marley and Peter Tosh, Bunny Wailer, who has died aged 73 of a stroke, was an integral part of the most influential musical group to have emerged from Jamaica. The least fated of the trio, he was in many ways the most respected, for as each of the Wailers pursued solo careers from the mid-1970s onwards, Marley to become reggae's global evangelist and Tosh its militant conscience, Wailer continued on his quiet path as its spiritual ambassador. His debut album, Blackheart Man, is widely felt to be one of reggae's highest peaks. While Wailer's initial acclaim stemmed from his work with Marley and Tosh, his later fame was derived from his solo output, which rested heavily, though by no means exclusively, on the masterful Blackheart Man. Released in 1976, just over 2 years after the Wailers had split, it was a gigantic achievement, simultaneously homespun and polished, uplifting and sorrowful, ethereal and worldly wise, and with an elemental aura about it that was summed up by its dark, foreboding cover, featuring a lion-like representation of its dreadlocked creator. Wailer was unable to follow up with anything quite so powerful or influential. But while he often spent long periods out of the public eye, tending to his land in the Jamaican countryside, he nevertheless produced a steady stream of ear-catching albums and singles that kept him energized and relevant at least until the early 90s. He was born Neville Livingston in Kingston, Jamaica, to Thaddeus Livingston, a rum shop proprietor known as Toddy, and his wife, Margaret, but grew up in the same small rural village, 9 Mile, as his childhood friend Marley, with whom he attended an all-age school in the nearby settlement of Stepney. Marley's mother, Sidella, was a housekeeper for Toddy, and in 1963 she bore him a child, Pearl, who was therefore a sister to both Livingston and Marley. When Livingston's family moved to the Trenchtown area of Kingston, Marley went with them, and for a time he was part of the household. Soon he and Livingston ran into Tosh, who had also moved to the city from the countryside, and, to add to the tangled web, Tosh had a child, Andrew, by Livingston's sister Shirley. As impoverished teenagers Tosh, Marley and Livingston, nicknamed Bunny, would sneak into Kingston's open-air dances to drink in the music of American artists of the late 50s and early 60s. They began to sing together as a harmony group, and by 1964 had released the ska single Simmer Down under the name of the Wailing Wailers. It went straight to number 1 in the Jamaican charts, made a small stir in the UK and allowed them to begin making stage appearances as a rather conventional-looking, if rude boy sharp, trio. Demonstrating a fierce work ethic, the Wailers went on to produce a string of local hits, including Put It On and Rude Boy. But success in the Jamaican charts was no route to financial comfort, and they continued to live a hand-to-mouth existence. Some solace came in Livingston's embrace of the Rastafarian faith, but in the spring of 1967, aged 20, his fortunes worsened dramatically when he was arrested for cannabis possession. Sentenced to 18 months hard labor in Kingston's brutal general penitentiary, after several months he was transferred to the prison farm, earning privileges through his value to the jail's cricket team and increasing his intake of marijuana, which was supplied by the wardens. While Livingston was inside, the other Wailers had begun to work with the eccentric producer Lee Scratch Perry, who helped to reinvent their sound and hook them up with the brothers Carlton and Aston Barrett on drums and bass. After Livingston rejoined them, they recorded 2 albums, Soul Rebels 1970 and Soul Revolution 1971, their first to be released abroad. But the ever-watchful Livingston had been suspicious of Perry, and the group eventually fell out with the producer over financial matters when both albums were released in the UK. By the end of 1971, after almost a decade of being fleeced by unscrupulous businessmen and producers, they were still poor. With Perry jettisoned, some financial stability arrived when the Wailers signed to Chris Blackwell's Island Records, after which they recorded the album Catch a Fire in early 1973, featuring songs such as Stir It Up, Concrete Jungle and Kinky Reggae. A tour followed in the US and UK, where they made a memorable appearance on the Old Grey Whistle test television show that set them on the path towards international recognition. Another album, Burnin', came later in 1973, with righteous classics such as Get Up, Stand Up and Small Axe. By then, however, Livingston, who had been unnerved by life on the road and unimpressed by Blackwell's thrusting of Marley into the spotlight, had decided to leave the group, followed shortly afterwards by Tosh. Out on his own and adopting the stage name of Bunny Wailer to signpost his connections, Livingston was able to move away from Marley's shadow and bring his own composing talents to the fore. Aside from its new compositions, Black Heart Man also featured tunes he had written many years before but which had largely been ignored, including Fighting Against Conviction, which he composed in jail. Reimagined in a mystical Rasta vein with Marley and Tosh on backing vocals, his old songs were given a new life that became the essence of roots reggae. Livingston followed up with 3 albums over the next 3 years, including Protest in 1977 and Struggle in 1978, and while little of his later output had quite the same meditative vibe as Blackheart Man, he proved himself to be a formidable songwriter, not least through uplifting singles that celebrated the joys of the dancehall, including Rockin', Groove and Cool Runnings, both in 1981. He remained a prolific releaser of material until 1989, when he came up with his last really notable album, Liberation. Never a lover of traveling, Livingston's fear of flying restricted his touring, although he did play on occasion in Europe and the US. In later life he mostly contented himself with enjoying the large plot of hilly land 60 miles west of Kingston that he had bought with a cash settlement from Island Records. There he communed with nature, grew corn and smoked herb. He was awarded the Order of Jamaica in 2012 and a Bunny Wailer Museum was opened in Kingston in 2017. In 2020 his wife, Jean Watt, suffering from dementia, disappeared from the family home. Her whereabouts remain unknown. He is believed to be survived by 13 children.